Welcome to the June 17, 2026 Environmental Quality Commission special meeting. This is an in-person and virtual meeting with Environmental Quality Commission members, city staff, and members of the public. Item B, roll call. Chair, I would now like to introduce staff and EQC members present. In the room, we have Chair Hill and Vice Chair Hernandez, Commissioners Angel, Goodwin, and McKenna. Commissioner Kissel is joining virtually using provisions from the Brown Act. Staff present include Sustainability Manager Rachel Launder and Management Analyst Liz Tapia. Ms. Launder, would you please provide instructions to the Commission and to members of the public on how the meeting will proceed?
Thank you, Chair Hill. I'll start by sharing instructions for public comment this evening. We'll have opportunities for public comment for each item on the agenda, and then also an opportunity for public comment for items not on the agenda. If you want to make public comment this evening, our cards are right over there, and we have a pen. You can fill one out and return it to myself or Liz. If you're online attending, you can press the raise hand button when you're ready to make public comment, and we'll be able to unmute you. You can find that button either at the bottom of your screen or to the right of your name, depending on your device. And if you're calling in, you can press *9 and we can unmute you. So comment cards, raise your hand, and we'll make it abundantly clear when public comment is open. Thank you.
Are you returning the meeting to me?
Yes, thank you.
Under item C, public comment. The public may address the Commission on any subject that is not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the Commission once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. While you're not required to provide your name or your city of residence, it is helpful. The Commission cannot act on items that are not listed on the agenda, and therefore the Commission cannot respond to non-agenda issues brought up under public comment other than to provide general information. Sustainability Manager Launder, please call for public comment.
Thank you, Chair Hill. If you'd like to make public comment for items not on the agenda, there's a card right over there, or you can press the raise hand button or press *9. And this is for items not on the agenda. And typically we have 3 minutes for public comment, unless there's 10 or more people who'd like to comment on an item. So I'm not seeing any cards in the room for items not on the agenda, and I don't see any hands raised online. So we can close public comment for items not on the agenda and return the meeting to you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Launder. This brings us now to item D, regular business. D1 is to approve the May 2026 Environmental Quality Commission meeting minutes. Are there any clarifying questions from the EQC before taking public comments about the agenda? I mean, the minutes?
Yes, there should be a correction under item D4, the action. In the first line, it says at the end, based on, and based on should be replaced with BESO, BESO.
Okay, so we can open up for public comment and then include that in a motion.
Okay, Ms. Launder, do we have any public comment on this item?
All right, opening up public comment for item D1, approving the May 20th EQC meeting minute. If you're in the room and you'd like to make public comment, we have cards over there. If you're online, you can press the raise hand button, and if you're calling in, you can press *9. No hands online and no cards in the room, so we're good to close public comment on item D1 and return the meeting to you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Launder. We are now open for EQC discussion and motion. So, Commissioner, oh my God, I'm looking at the last name, John. Did you have a motion?
Sure, I can make a motion to approve with that change I mentioned previously.
Okay.
Okay. So we have a motion by Commissioner McKenna and a second by Vice Chair Hernandez to approve the May 20th Environmental Quality Commission meeting minutes, correcting the typo for item D4 from based on to BESO. And we'll do roll call vote because we have Commissioner Kissel remote. So we'll just go in order as I have it here, which is alpha order. So Chair Hill.
Yes.
Vice Chair Hernandez.
Yeah.
Commissioner Angel.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodwin.
Yes.
Commissioner Kissel.
Yes.
And Commissioner McKenna.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes with 6 in favor and one table. And we can return the meeting for item D2, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Lunder. Item D2 is to review and discuss the annual city arborist report. The city arborist is Jillian Keller. Are there any clarifying questions from the EQC before Ms. Keller begins? No, we hear from Ms. Keller first.
And Ms. Keller's joining us remotely along with Joanna Chen in Public Works. Julian, when you're ready, feel free to share and begin.
All right. Good evening, Chair Hill and EQC commissioners. I believe Management Analyst Liz Tapia is going to share the presentation. But if she's unable to, I'm more than happy to present. Oh, there we go. Nice. Okay, great. Good evening, Chair Hill and EQC commissioners. I'm Joanna Chen, a Public Works Management Analyst, and here with me is the City Arborist, Jillian Keller. We're here to present the annual Arborist report. I do apologize that this copy in front of you of the presentation is slightly different than the one published with the agenda, but it's still the same content, just maybe a little bit updated data. So next page, please. Okay, so Jillian and I will go over these following topics. We'll discuss about the urban forest canopy. We'll talk about our tree team, and we'll review and discuss the heritage tree and the street tree ordinance. We'll provide a quick update on the storm damage this fiscal year. We had some amazing community events this year with like the Boy Scouts, lots of community engagement. We'll also talk about an upcoming project that we're working on, recent career development within the team, and then a look ahead of what we're doing. Okay, so next page, please. And then here are some fun facts about the community's urban forest canopy. The city has about 19,000 public trees. 5,500 of them are park trees, which is amazing. The remaining 12,400 are right-of-way or street trees. The city's tree contractor, West Coast Arborist, they provide a routine trimming maintenance schedule on a 5-year rotating schedule. Residents may submit tree-related service requests such as inspections, planting, debris removal through an online platform called ACT Menlo Park. During this fiscal year, the city planted 132 trees. They pruned about 3,000 trees and also removed about 135 trees. Next page. And then I hand it off to Jillian, who will talk more about her team.
All right, thank you, Joanna. And good evening, everybody. I'm excited to be here to talk with you all about the state of our urban forest. So I'll start off with an overview of our tree team. So our city staff is comprised of 3 tree maintenance workers, 2 full-time workers, and 1 temporary worker. Right now, we're working on hiring another full-time maintenance worker to be able to serve our community better. Of course, we also have me, the city arborist, and our wonderful management analyst, Joanna, who has been assisting with a lot of our tree permits and private tree inquiries. We are currently also working on bringing on a new tree supervisor. We're actually going to be holding the final round of interviews for our tree supervisor tomorrow. So the tree supervisor is my right-hand person who helps the city oversee the maintenance of all of our city trees. So that person will oversee our tree crew, our contractor, West Coast Arborist, and we'll meet with residents to review trees and figure out what kind of maintenance those trees are in need of to help keep them safe and healthy. So looking forward to that and having a fully staffed team soon. We also have a tree maintenance contractor, West Coast Arborist. And we also have a permit review contractor, Hort Science Bartlett Consulting. So they help me review building and demolition permit applications and help ensure that city street trees and heritage trees are protected as a part of those construction projects, that they have arborist reports, that the tree protection plans are in compliance, and that any trees that do need to be removed as a part of a construction project are being replaced with new trees at the end of the project. So we are lucky to live in a Tree City, USA. The city of Menlo Park has earned this designation 27 years in a row. The criteria one must meet to qualify as a Tree City, USA include maintaining a tree board, you guys, having a tree department, having a community tree ordinance. So we have our heritage tree ordinance and we have our street tree ordinance. Spending at least $2 per capita on urban forestry. We're well above that. I think we're more at like $7 or $8 per capita that we spend on our city trees. And of course, we have the Arbor Day celebration that we organize with the EQC every year. We've also, for the past 11 years, been awarded the Growth Award, which demonstrates that we have a high level of tree care and community engagement. Next slide. All right, so let's go a bit into the responsibilities of our trees team. So a large part of maintaining and protecting our trees is enforcing our heritage tree ordinance and our street tree ordinance. So as a part of that process, I touched a bit on it earlier, but me and my permit review contractor, Hort Science, we review building and demolition permits for compliance with our tree protection ordinances. We help ensure trees are protected during construction. So I actually went out to a construction site earlier and I noticed that a city street tree wasn't being protected. So I talked with the foreman, took photos, and then when I got back to the office, followed up with the project team. And actually, on my way back to the office, I came across 2 other project sites that unfortunately were also out of compliance. So stopped at those properties too, talked with the construction foreman, took photos, and sent follow-up emails. So we have so much house construction going on across Menlo Park. So I'm always on the lookout whenever I go out into the field for those active construction sites where I might see that they don't have, for instance, tree protection fencing or trunk protection, or that construction equipment or materials stored up against the base of trees. By the way, I'm only one person. So if you guys are going around Menlo Park and if you notice that trees are being damaged or are not being protected during construction, like reach out to me and then we can work with a construction contractor to get that fixed to make sure that those trees are protected so that they remain an asset to the future site. When we do have the new tree supervisor join our team, hopefully soon, they will also be assisting with that. But right now it's kind of a lot of work for one person. Related to that, another big responsibility of ours is investigating potential heritage tree violations. That does happen a lot on construction sites, unfortunately. Another example of a potential heritage tree violation is removal of heritage trees without permits, without city review. We also review and update our administrative guidelines for our heritage tree ordinance. We also provide root pruning consultation for city hardscape work. For instance, if we need to repair a sidewalk or a gutter that's being damaged by a city tree, we'll coordinate with the sidewalk repair contractor, for instance, and after they remove all the hardscape, I'll go on site, I'll take a look at the tree roots that have been exposed, and I'll work with the contractor to figure out what roots we can safely remove, what roots we absolutely need to preserve for the stability and health of the tree. And if we do need to prune roots, where are those cuts going to be made, and making sure the cuts are actually made correctly, as a way of ensuring we maintain the health and safety of the tree while also allowing them to complete whatever hardscape work they need to do there. And of course, one of our other really big responsibilities is maintaining our public trees. We also serve as disaster service workers, such as when we have stormy weather. That's a big one for trees. Thankfully, we haven't had very severe stormy weather lately. And then another is organizing the annual Arbor Day Foundation with you all, the EQC, one of my favorite events by far of the year. Next slide. All right. So, as I mentioned earlier, we have a heritage tree ordinance. So what is that? The purpose of the Heritage Tree Ordinance is to help ensure that we have a significant population of large, healthy trees over the long term. We are very fortunate in Menlo Park to have a lot of trees, a lot of big trees, and we want to do our best to make sure that those trees continue to provide the benefits to the community and that they're also safe and healthy as well. Some of the many benefits that our city trees provide include enhancing our natural environment, preventing erosion of topsoil, sedimentation, stormwater runoff, diversion, shade during this hot summer weather that we've been experiencing, providing wildlife habitat, helping with air pollution, decreasing wind and noise. The list goes on and on. Trees provide so many benefits. And that's why our community, I think, is invested in preserving it. So moving on to the next slide, the heritage tree definition. So in Menlo Park, we have a rather broad definition of heritage trees. So any species, as long as it is 15 inches in trunk diameter or larger, is considered a heritage tree. I get asked that a lot. There are some species, yes, that may be less desirable, like our blue gum eucalyptus, for example. But if those trees are large enough, at least 15 inches in trunk diameter, they still are protected, and we still have to establish good cause for the removal of those trees before allowing the removal to take place. Our native oaks have a higher level of protection than other tree species. So our native oaks include like coast live oak, valley oak, blue oak. So those trees are protected starting at 10 inches in trunk diameter. So smaller native oak trees can qualify as being protected heritage trees. And lastly, if designated by city council, a group of trees could also be considered heritage trees. To my knowledge, we don't have specific trees like that designated as heritage trees. So we mostly work off of the species and the diameter sizes when determining whether or not a tree is a heritage tree. Next slide. All right, Joanna, I think you're up.
And so there are three different types of heritage tree removal permits, and the requirements vary. So if the primary removal reason is because the tree is dead, if the tree poses an extreme risk, if the tree is declining in health, or if it's a low desirable tree species, the city requires three documentations. That's the simple application form, an arborist report from the city approved list, and a replacement tree plan. And so the replacement tree plan correlates to the size of the diameter. And then the appeal process, only the permit applicant may appeal the city's decision. The second type of permit is development related. It is more stringent as more documents are required. So in addition to the application form, the arborist report, and the mitigation plan, the permit applicant needs to submit the proposed construction plans, the alternative design to try and preserve the heritage tree, as well as the construction cost analysis. The replacement tree requirement is also more stringent as it correlates to the tree's appraisal value. So not the trunk diameter, but the monetary value of the tree. The appeal process is more stringent. Any community member may appeal. Notices are mailed out to the neighborhood, and then on-site postings are required as well too. The last permit type is emergency removal. We often see that during the stormy weather, when a tree is about to fall or actively falling, like you could see the roots being uplifted. So these types of permits are expedited. Residents would submit like a picture to the city arborist to verify that the tree does show overall extreme risk. The replacement tree is still required. And there is no appeal process for that. And this is just a list of our overall heritage tree resources that we have available. The first bullet point is like the main trees webpage where it gives you all the resources, the definition, the permitting process, where you can find data and all that. The second bullet point is, if you're ever curious when you're driving around or walking around, you're curious if this property has a permit to remove a tree, you can go online, search the address, and it'll pull up whether or not if there's an active permit for that site address. And then lastly, in our next slide, there is a dashboard where it shows the city's data on all of the heritage tree permits. So this, for example, this dashboard shows the city's data on heritage tree permits for this current fiscal year. It's an interactive tool to display the statistics based on council districts. It's not currently live on the website, but I am working with IT to get it to have the public access to it. And so this is just a screenshot, but if you are interested in doing a live demo, I'm more than happy to do that during the Q&A section. Okay, so next slide. And then during this fiscal year, we did have a couple of appeals. So for instance, the first one that went in front of EQC was 68 Willow Road, which is a large development project that the appellant decided to appeal 13 heritage trees. And then the city did receive one for 763 College Ave. That was for one heritage Southern Magnolia Street tree. But in the end, after discussing it between the appellant and the applicant decided to withdraw their heritage tree permit application. So they decided to preserve that street tree. Okay, next slide. And then Jillian will go on to talk more about the street tree ordinance.
Sure. Thanks, Joanna. So as I touched on earlier, in addition to our heritage tree ordinance, we have a street tree ordinance, which protects all of our city street trees, including park trees as well. So even if it is a small tree below 15 inches in diameter planted yesterday. If it is a city, street, or park tree, it is still protected. And of course, as a city, street tree, or park tree, it's our responsibility to maintain those trees. Our street tree ordinance also has language about how those trees are protected and how no resident or developer can plant or remove or prune any of those trees without permission from the city. So we do have a lot of private tree care contractors who do work in Menlo Park, and sometimes our residents want to work with those private tree care contractors on our city street trees. So they'll simply give me a call or shoot me an email and say, hey, this resident wants us to do work on this tree, and then I talk with them and I make sure that the work that they're planning to do is in compliance with our street tree and heritage tree ordinance and with industry standards, so that they're actually pruning the trees properly with consideration for the tree's health, for the tree's structure, and for safety, of course, as well. All right, next slide. So we also receive and respond to requests for street tree maintenance. So a resident can request, for instance, that a street tree be planted in front of their property in the right of way. So this is a large part of our street tree management plan and our upcoming partnership with Canopy that we'll get into a bit later. And using ACT Menlo Park, also known as SeeClickFix, residents can report tree-related issues to the city. So if they notice, for instance, that a street tree has a broken hanging branch, if a street tree has fallen over, if a street tree has tragically been hit by a car, which unfortunately has happened like 5 times this year, let us know. We'll send our tree crew out as soon as we can to try and help the tree, hopefully salvage it, and do whatever corrective pruning we need to do to fix the tree structure to make sure it's still safe. Next slide. Joanna, were you going to present this one?
Yeah, I could do it. As previously mentioned earlier, the city planted 132, and the tree team, as much as possible, would like to do a 1-for-1 replacement. So if the city, in this case, the city removed 135, and so the city planted 132 replacement trees. And so removals are mainly due to because the tree is declining in health. Other reasons may include that the tree is conflicting with a habitable building, or if the tree has compromised structure. And so on the right, you can see on the bar graph, it's organized by district, and then on the bottom, you can see it's almost 50-50 of how much we remove and plant in place. Next slide. And this is just a quick recap of the storm damage that we had this fiscal year. Compared to other years, this year was pretty minimal. The city received about 55 tree-related calls. When you compare it to fiscal year 2022-23, the city received 340 calls. So most of these calls are related to branch failures or a whole tree has fallen and blocked the road, as you can see from the pictures. Next slide. And then Jillian will talk about the fun stuff that she and her team did this fiscal year.
Yeah, thanks, Joanna. So this past fiscal year, we partnered with a couple of organizations to care for and plant for trees. We partnered with Summer of Service Kids and provided young tree care over at Seminary Oaks Park. So that included a little bit of structural pruning and removal of some invasive ivy that was starting to creep up the trunks of the tree. as best I could. I also tried to have that be an educational opportunity for the kids, explain what we're looking for in terms of structure for a tree, and explain why we need to remove weeds like ivy to help reduce competition and encourage healthy growth of the tree. We also partnered with a local Boy Scout troop. We planted 2 trees over at Burgess Park. They were super excited and got some service hours in as well. And some of you might have been a part of this event. We also planted with the same troop of Boy Scouts and with the Canopy Teen Urban Foresters, a couple of trees for the Arbor Day celebration over in Bellhaven, Hamilton Park. One of those trees was our Arbor Day tree, and the other one was the mayor's tree planting tree. We planted Chinese fringe trees, which have really pretty white flowers. By the way, if you guys know of any local organizations who are interested in giving back and planting trees, let me know. I'm always happy to work with those organizations to provide them an opportunity to plant a tree for service hours, communities service hours for school or for the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts. Just shoot me an email and we can take it from there. All right, the next slide, yes, is about our early action tree planting plan. So I talked a little bit about this earlier. So this is going to kick off our urban forest management plan. So as a part of this early action tree planting plan, we're going to work with Canopy, they're our selected contractor, to plant around 70 trees in Bellhaven and Menlo Park. This is where trees are needed most. They are going to assist us with community outreach and education. We held our kickoff meeting with Canopy, going over expectations and discussing first steps for developing outreach material and starting outreach in early May. Then I had to take a couple of weeks off. I got into an accident, but I'm back and I am excited to reach back out to Canopy to restart the process of developing those outreach materials and our outreach strategy. So the plan is that we will perform this outreach to the residents through the summer, like talk to them about the opportunity to have trees planted in the city's right of way, in the sidewalk, or even in their front yards. In some areas, the city's right of way extends into people's front yards, and the only place to plant a tree is in somebody's front yard. And hopefully get their buy-in, their interest, and work with them to select an appropriate tree species for that site. And also provide education about the maintenance of the tree and about the city's tree programs in general, like reassuring them that these are going to be city trees, city maintained trees. If there are any issues with the trees, they can reach out to the city. We'll come out and we'll assist. If the stakes need adjusting, for instance, if the tree needs to be pruned back from a driveway, anything at all, letting them know that we're there to provide that support to make sure that those trees are successful, continue to provide the benefits that trees provide, and are also safe too, of course. All right, next slide. Okay, in this recent fiscal year, we added 1 new tree maintenance worker to the team. And as I mentioned, we are working on adding another tree maintenance worker to our team and a new tree supervisor. So a lot of exciting stuff coming. We also added a couple more consulting arborists to our list of approved consulting arborists. So whenever a resident or a developer wants to, for instance, like propose a heritage tree for removal, they have to get an arborist report from a city approved arborist. These are arborists who have done a lot of work in Menlo Park, who are experienced arborists who have many tree-related certifications and qualifications, and who are familiar with like the structure of the trees around Menlo Park, the typical species failure profile, familiar with like how these trees perform in this environment, and can provide really good, hopefully unbiased evaluations of the tree's health and the tree's structure, and whether or not those trees actually do need to be removed, or ideally if there's something that that homeowner can do to help the tree's health or structure, whether that be like pest management or like soil injections, a type of fertilizer, or maybe just a little bit of structural pruning, pruning a tree away from a house to help with insurance renewal requirements, hopefully working with those qualified and professional arborists to figure out what options are available to save that tree, and only resorting to removal as the very last choice. So that's the reason behind why we have an approved list of arborists. And if it does come to removal, like they will write a report, like thoroughly documenting why the removal is needed and why there aren't very feasible alternatives. And of course, then I review those applications and make sure like there is actually a valid justification for removal there. We're continuing to update the administrative guidelines for our heritage tree ordinance. So we're waiting on a few more reviewers, and then we're gonna review those guidelines and then hopefully get them finalized and published with the help of our city attorney's office. And like I mentioned in the previous slide, we've started on our early action tree planting plan as well. Super excited about that. Next slide. Another slide about what exciting developments we have in progress, updating our administrative guidelines. We're also working on transitioning our tree team's tree work equipment to all electric. So that includes electric chainsaws, electric leaf blowers, electric hand and reach pole pruners. We're also working on executing the early action tree planting plan with Canopy. And then again, the goal is in the long term, using that early action tree planting plan to like initiate and to like build up into the development of our urban forest management plan. All right. Thank you all so much for your attention. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Keller and Ms. Chen, for fantastic presentation. We are so happy that you helped our city with our trees. Are there any clarifying questions from the EQC before we take public comment and public questions? Okay, Ms. Launder, would you open for public comment, please?
Absolutely. Okay, so we're opening up public comment for item D2, review and discuss the annual city arborist report. And there's a couple of new folks since I made the announcement at the beginning of the meeting about how public comment typically runs. But we'll go in order of comment cards received. Typically, public commenters get 3 minutes, but when we have 10 or more, city council policy is often to do 2 minutes. So we can wait and see how many comments we have. Right now, we have 4 cards in the room, but it looks like there's some folks still filling them out. So if you want to speak on this item, this is your opportunity to grab a public comment card over there, hand it back to me or Liz. And if you're online, you can hit the raise hand button. And if you could do that now, just so we can get a sense of how many are interested in making public comment. I don't see any hands online yet. It looks like we still have some cards in. Oh, so maybe we won't get 10. It looks like we're at 4 right now. Again, if you want to speak on this item, the way to do it is to fill out a public comment card, and we'll give you time before the EQC goes into their discussion. Okay, well, perhaps we can start with the cards that we do have since we only have 4. We can stick with the 3 minutes if you want, or we
That sounds wonderful. 3 minutes per person. Let's start with, the first person.
Our first public comment is from JP. You can stand, and the microphone's over there, but I think it catches everything.
Okay.
I will start when we are ready.
Hello, everyone. My name is JP Renault. I'm the Executive Director of Canopy. As you heard, Canopy has been working in the peninsula for nearly 30 years. And we have worked alongside residents, schools, businesses, and local governments to grow and protect the urban forest across our region. Our mission is simple: to bring communities together to grow and sustain equitable urban forests for everyone. I want to thank the City of Menlo Park for the thoughtful work reflected in this report and for recognizing that a healthy urban forest is not just an environmental asset, but a community asset. I also want to express our gratitude to city leadership, including Jillian Keller, Rachel Laundner, and Joanna Chen, as well as the many community leaders who are here in this room today, who I recognize for their partnership and their willingness to work with us and embrace a community forestry approach. We were delighted to see photos from Canopy events included today in this presentation. Your support has helped create the conditions for a model where residents are not simply recipients of trees, but active recipients and participants in growing and sustaining the urban forest. At Canopy, we're particularly excited about the direction the city is taking because it aligns so closely to our vision for the future. That the strongest urban forests are built through partnerships between local governments, community organizations, and residents themselves. Beginning next fiscal year, as you heard from Jillian, Canopy will serve as an official partner to the city with a contract to plant 70 additional trees in Belhaven. This builds on years of work in the neighborhood, where Canopy and community members have planted more than 250 trees and helped increase neighborhood coverage by an entire percentage point. But what excites us more is not simply the number of trees. It's the growing recognition that community forestry is different from traditional urban forestry. Urban forestry asks, how do we plant more trees? Community forestry asks, how do we bring people together through trees? When residents help choose, plant, water, and care for trees, those trees are more likely to survive. And in return, the community develops a sense of ownership, stewardship, and pride in their city that no contractor or municipal department can create alone. A tree planted by a resident is not just a tree. It's a relationship. That's why we are encouraged to see Menlo Park increasingly embrace our model, one that puts people at the center of our work. In Belhaven especially, where canopy coverage remains significantly lower than many other neighborhoods, expanding the urban forest is also an investment in infrastructure, in public health, in climate resilience, and in community leadership. The city brings expertise, resources, and long-term planning. Canopy brings community engagement, volunteer mobilization, education, and stewardship. Together, we could create an urban forest that is not only larger, but stronger and more resilient because it is rooted in community. The future of urban forestry is not just planting trees for people, it's planting trees with people. We look forward to partnering with the city of Menlo Park and with the residents of Belhaven to demonstrate what community forestry can achieve when government and community work side by side. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, JP. Next, we have Dempsey, whenever you're ready. This will probably come from wherever you are.
Microphone here.
Yeah, but the camera's right here, I was realizing, so if you want to be on camera,
That's okay.
either way.
Good evening, Chair Hill, Commissioners and City staff. Dempsey Vedekbudi, resident of the Willows in District 2. Two quick comments. Firstly, on in support of the Early Action Tree Planting Plan, if I've got all the words in the right order. I want to thank the city arborist and Canopy as well for that great project. I'm looking forward to getting those 70 trees actually in the ground, and then thinking about the next 70 trees that we could be planting as well. One suggestion would be, whenever we do show data on the tree canopy within Menlo Park, and we started doing that here today, we need to always show that district by district, because that would highlight where there are the disparities, and it continues to make that case for the tree canopy coverage that we want to do in Menlo Park. So that dashboard that we saw, that'd be great. When that goes out, it'd be fantastic to see. The second quick comment is on street maintenance work in the city arborist. I've been speaking to residents in District 2, specifically in Suburban Park and Laurel Lane Manor. It's a frequent topic of discussion on when the particular trees are going to be maintained. And I know it's on a 5-year cycle. They are maintained really well, and people are aware that they can actually go access and make a request outside of that cycle. One suggestion would be, it'd be helpful to know exactly when their trees or the trees in front of their property are up within that cycle. Just that simple transparency would help provide people a little bit of extra comfort on when their trees can be maintained. So just 2 quick suggestions there. But thanks for all the work in City Arborist. It's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Nancy. Next, we have Nancy, whenever you're ready.
All right. Hi, everyone. Well, I'm really happy to be back. Nancy LaRocca Headley. I served on the EQC for the last 4 years and just recently rolled off. But trees were the reason I applied for the commission originally. So I'm imagining my future years coming back for this annual update. I'm really excited to see about the partnership with Canopy. I think that's really great and great speech there, JP. And I want to say thank you to Jillian and Joanna and the whole team for everything you're doing to protect our trees and to preserve and grow our canopy. I have to admit, I was sad to see that there were more trees removed than planted. Yeah, and I know that there's so much more that we're doing, so I don't want to hang out there too long. But having been deep in the urban forestry question the last 4 years, I would love to have the EQC discuss more, maybe with staff, around like, where are we really with the update to the heritage tree administrative guidelines? I would love to know about that. Like, what are some of the challenges? What are the things we're hoping it will fix? And also with the urban forest management plan, I love seeing the early action tree planting plan. And I'm curious, what are the next steps with actually getting the urban forest management plan in place? And is there anything that you need from the community? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next, we have Kathy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kathy Orico, resident of Bellhaven. And I have a quick question, which Jillian may have already answered, and then a comment. We had one of our trees, our ornamental pears that was on the private property, topple over a couple weeks ago. Thankfully, it didn't hit anything except a car. But it made us all wonder. We all have these huge ornamental pear trees. They look healthy to us. That one looked healthy. So Jillian, when you say maintenance, does anyone come around and inspect trees, or how can we make sure all our trees are still safe and getting enough water?
So during public comment, we can't answer those types of questions, but the chair can direct that question to the arborist after public comment.
Okay, that's fine. And then I have a comment that we could probably all use some help with leaf removal in November, December, January. Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Kathy. And next we have Mary. Mary Gunn.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm relatively new to the neighborhood. You don't think that I do one of the things that attracted me was the trees. So I'm really glad you guys made the effort that you do. I looked at the plans and I saw that with the development, there seemed to be an awful lot of trees, heritage trees that have been destroyed. And it didn't say, I couldn't find in the plan if those would then be replaced by freshly planted trees once the project is done. I know you can't answer questions, but that's sort of information I can find out sort of how I can look for that. But I know that definitely helps to have more trees and that we can get a nice canopy is on the other side of the freeway. Eventually, it has more property value, and that's all the other big things. That's what I mentioned already. So thank you for your work on that.
Thank you for your comment. Next, we have Jocelyn.
Comment was for item D3.
Oh, thank you. Alright. Sorry for not catching that. Next we have Pat.
Okay. Mine is by my backyard, the tall trees. And in the winter, they look scary that they're gonna fall on your home. Do Menlo Park come out and trim those trees as well, or what do we do about that? They're really tall, my trees is real tall. So what do we do? I mean, help.
Yes. Yeah, we'll see if we can get to that in the discussion. Is that all you wanted to share?
Yeah.
Thank you, Pat, for your comment and question.
Mhm.
Okay, next we have Pam, when you're ready.
Good evening, Pam Johns, longtime resident of the Bellhaven neighborhood in Menlo Park. Welcome to the community campus. I act like I own it, but we all do. If we live in Bellhaven, we own the campus, but welcome. And it's always great when you come here and come back. As you can see, there's a lot of energy in the community for trees. Thank you, Canopy, for sending Nikila over to our CCCT meetings, because with the energy that young lady has, and she reminding us of all of the progress we have made, it's really energizing the community to recognize that, yes, we are being heard, and yes, we are developing a tree canopy. And Jillian, thank you for the update. Most of what I heard was driving from another meeting to come over here, so I didn't get all of the details with everything. I will have to go back and watch the meeting. In regards to the urban forest management plan, I know that in the past that we haven't had the funding to really fully implement it, but I would request that as looking to the environmental justice element, that we use that as a lever to implement, develop and implement an urban forest management plan here in Bellhaven. As you heard, we had more trees removed than we did planted, and we already are extremely low when it comes to our canopy, and it's even more important health-wise that we really do rectify that. Along with the tree planting plan, consider having some type of water stipend. What I have noticed is that when I'm watering my trees, like Canopy told me to do, my water bill goes up about $25 and sometimes as much as $50 a month, depending on the heat. And when you're on a fixed income, that's a lot of money. And so consider that there being some kind of way, and maybe Canopy can help with that, and partner with the city on that, some way in which people that are watering their trees, verified, have that type of confirmation. And the last thing I want to bring up is that we did have a substantially improved street cleaning schedule this past year, and we were able to really keep with the community, reminding ourselves that we needed to do our part too, which I'm sure is why we had a pretty reasonable winter. The flood here, if you didn't know, had nothing to do with anything that Bellhaven was doing. It had to do with a structural thing that the agencies that were responsible for that area did not take care of. That was the flooding that was on Hamilton Avenue. Okay. And we all knew who hadn't lived here more than 10 years, because they were the ones that tried to drive through it, You cannot drive through standing water, no matter how late for work you're going to be. But since we know that we have this severe El Nino event coming up, and the predicted month is November, we need to have a plan now, not just in Bellhaven, but Bellhaven's most important, but throughout the city, to ensure that we're doing the best that we can to remove leaves. And that means that the community has to do their part. Maybe we all need to have a rake donated to us, as to and I'm being very serious about that, because some people don't have rakes, in which we can do proper leaf removal, and that would also help with our street cleaning. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, Laura. And just the last call for public comment on item D2. this annual city arborist report. I have my last comment card here for Marlene. Oh, and looks like we have a hand raised now online. So again, get your cards in and your hands raised. And Marlene, you can begin when you're ready.
I thank everyone and I really appreciate the report as many of us probably do. It was really insightful to see how many plants were, or trees were planted versus removed. And just giving a little bit of an idea of like why they were removed. So seeing that, quite a bit of them were removed because of the health. And as Cam mentioned, El Nino is projected to be a year of El Nino. So really doing outreach and education to all of us in the community, working with Canopy that hosts really great community meetings and the local orgs to really work together with the city arborist to see the health of the trees and how we can work together to improve that. And seeing that, I think to Nancy's point, like seeing that the trees removed versus planted was pretty jarring to me as well. And the fact that there's 10 trees planted in Belhaven and 122 in the rest of the city was also, I think it was very shocking. And I hope that seeing those points today can really drive us to plant more, make a commitment to plant more for the next year on top of the commitment with Canopy. I think having an investment and really drawing to that it helps not only with our health, but also with like flooding and sea level rise that is also on the horizon, would be really impactful. And I think educational events, I think on top of just like the health of the trees, really working towards like figuring out what are ways that we can plant more. I know that in Belhaven it can be tricky because there's a small space and there's a lot of asphalt. So are there like ways that we can actually like get rid of some of the asphalt and provide more greenery, also along the trees? Looking at trees here in Belhaven versus like the rest of the city, there's like big discrepancies there. So working on that, not just the trees are great and more, but also greenery and where can we fill those gaps with also like native plants and flowers.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, we have one comment online, and so this is our last call for item D2, public comment on the annual arborist report. And Nina, I'm gonna ask you to unmute and you can begin when you're ready.
Okay. Hi, Nina Woke, Belhaven since forever. Mostly just want to agree with Pam, and I realize this is way above the arborist's job description, but it seems like it was really backwards thinking of the city to say, oh yeah, construction, let them take out whole bunches of trees, and then maybe Canopy can get the residents to volunteer to put back half those trees. How'd they get away with that? How come the requirements to build over here don't require replacing trees that are removed? Because when I looked at those 2 bars for our neighborhood versus everybody else's neighborhood, I started getting really mad. There might have been somebody else who had more removed than planted, but if so, not by much. And I also want to second the thing about being ready for El Nino, because, you know, we're lower here, we flood more here, and we're more crowded, which means when a tree's down, more people are going to be trapped behind it. That's about all, and I do really appreciate the city arborist department. I don't want to hang city council sins on y'all. It just made me mad.
Thank you for your comment, Nina. Okay. See no other hands online or cards in the room. We can close public comment on item D2 and return the meeting to you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Launder. What procedure was it you were referring to in order to be able to refer questions that came up in the comments?
Yeah, if you want to prioritize those questions, we can go through those right now with the arborist. I captured the spirit of 3 specific questions, but maybe you've captured 2.
I captured, yeah, I made notes on everybody who spoke, and I'm not quite sure what the best thing to do is. Some questions are general information, and we could proceed with some general information. but I'm not sure if we might also get into a discussion about private property trees. Because we haven't discussed those very much beyond their heritage size. And what they entail. And if we did that, how would we fit into the agenda and who would lead that discussion? I don't know.
Yeah, we could certainly start off the conversation with private trees. I heard in the questions, trees, maintenance in backyard, understanding if there's a way to, get updates on the maintenance cycle. And then also if there can be requests made for tree safety inspection.
Yeah, with
Are
regards
those two, is that a good place to start maybe?
Okay, yeah, there were some questions about public trees and about private trees. There was a lot of questions about, not a lot, but questions about safety and maintenance and expensive maintenance of private trees. And then with regard to public trees, street trees, there was questions about when the maintenance would happen. And I'm guessing people would also like to know specifically how to request a tree be planted. So that would be general information we share. But
Okay.
I don't know, is that Jillian maybe could do?
Yeah, I think so, Jillian. It's how you unmuted earlier.
Yeah,
So-
I'm happy to
Okay.
help answer however it's
Lovely.
appropriate.
Lovely. Okay, well, first off, would you talk about the how the city handles public trees, which are street trees and trees in parks and maintenance? And then what sorts of suggestions or help there is if you have private trees that are on your property or more complex yet your neighbor's property? If you would talk about that as well, and particularly with regard to safety, I think that's what I heard.
Yeah, both really great questions. Let's start with the city-owned and maintained street trees and park trees. So as mentioned earlier, we do have those trees all on a 5-year maintenance cycle. So that routine maintenance also includes inspection. So if our contractor, West Coast Arborist, notice that a tree that they're providing that routine maintenance for has a severe decay, like a large dead hanging branch, looks like it's all but dead, they'll report it back to us, and then we'll go out, evaluate, and determine what is appropriate. So outside of that 5-year cycle, residents, of course, are welcome to reach out to the city. They can do this by calling the city, submitting a C-Click Fix ACT service request. They could also send me an email directly. And we can go out and we can take a look at the tree and figure out what's going on. So generally, I would recommend, especially as we anticipate stormy weather later this year, just keeping an eye on your trees. If you notice that your tree is starting to die back in the canopy, if you notice that there are dead branches in the canopy, if you start to notice some discoloration in the trunk or in the big roots right at the base of the tree, anything like that, just contact us and we'll come out and we'll take a look and see what we can do to make sure the tree is safe. Even if you don't notice or are not able to tell if something is wrong, it never hurts to just reach out to us and request an inspection, and we can just come out and take a quick look and say, yeah, this is fine. We can do a little bit of trimming, but the tree should otherwise be fine. So feel free to reach out to us for those evaluations. If you do have a private tree, that is a little different. So the city does not provide maintenance for private trees. Our scope of work and our services are limited to city-owned and maintained trees. Our funding comes from the public, and we provide service for public trees. If you do have a concern about a private tree, I usually recommend that you have a private arborist come out and take a look. If it seems like it's an emergency, if it's a public health and safety hazard, you can send a picture and I can take a quick look, and if it's a heritage tree, I can say, yeah, this qualifies for an emergency removal exemption. It looks like the tree is in pretty bad shape. It's showing signs of instability. In that capacity, in those circumstances, I can take a quick look and provide that guidance. Otherwise, we would recommend you work with a private arborist. If it is a tree on your neighbor's property, another tricky situation. If they have a really big tree that looks like it's hazardous, if it's dead, you can, I always encourage residents, if they have a good relationship with their neighbor, to try and talk with their neighbor, to share their concerns, and encourage their neighbor to hire an arborist to take a look at the tree to see what they can do. If that doesn't work, which often it doesn't, sometimes it can be hard to be friends with neighbors. You can reach out to the city, so you can submit a C-Click Fix ACT request to code enforcement and let them know that there is a potentially hazardous tree in your neighbor's backyard. And then the code enforcement officers can get in touch with the property owner. Oftentimes they'll involve me in those cases, and sometimes I'll go out with the code enforcement officers and I'll take a look at the tree in the backyard, and I'll tell the neighbor, the owner of the tree, that yeah, this tree is dead. This poses a potential safety hazard. Some of your neighbors have expressed concerns. Here's the city's process for removing a dead tree like that. So the city can provide that kind of guidance for potentially hazardous trees on neighboring properties as well. But then again, just emphasizing that the city doesn't actually touch or maintain any of those private trees. It's just the city street trees and park trees.
Thanks, Jillian. So if I heard you right, if people would like to have a street tree in front of their house checked, maintained, anything at all, they can go to the click fix or email you, and they'll get some information on that. So with regard to say when the maintenance is gonna come through on that tree, they can ask the city when it's gonna happen. If they have a tree that looks dangerous, it seems that maybe the best thing to do would be to try to find your own tree expert, which sounds a little tricky. But there's a list of them on the city website who are approved by the city, right? Okay.
Yes, that's right.
All right. Great. So there are some other questions as well. Are there other questions that we want to handle in a general way, in your opinion, Rachel, or do we want to get into the specifics of our discussion as you see on the urban forestry management program plan and stuff?
Yeah, just looking at the timing, since we're at in a facility that closes at 8, recommend maybe shifting to discussion and seeing where that takes the.
Okay, if people feel like they still have remaining questions, they could probably contact you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe like we can continue the second item on tonight's agenda to our July meeting, so we can really use the rest of the time to focus on this.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do we need to vote on continuing?
Not until we get there, yeah.
All right. Okay, then we are back to opening for EQC discussion. We are open for EQC discussion. John.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank all the robust public comments, especially from the Belhaven residents. It's really great to kind of understand their priorities and concerns. And Jillian, I'm sorry you were in an accident. I'm glad you're okay. Thanks for being here. I guess I wanted to uplift some of the questions and maybe ask a few others. One comment was made about the flooding and the leaf removal. Does the city prioritize leaf removal during storms for the flood prone areas? Is that even your department?
So I think Joanna can help me answer this question. I'm not too involved with leaf removal. That would be our streets department. They have a contractor that provides this street sweeping. And it's my understanding that ahead of storms and during fall, when the leaves fall, they increase the frequency of their services. I know that my colleague Hugo, he's right next door. He's a street supervisor. He also has a pretty good idea of the hot spots of where the street sweeping is needed most, where the most leaf and debris accumulation is. Am I missing anything, Joanna?
No, I think you hit up all the good points. If residents have questions about when their streets are being swept, we do have that schedule available on our city website as well too.
Thank you. I think a question I had, which I kind of heard from the public as well, was I guess just educating the commission and the public on what both can do to minimize the amount of trees that are removed under the development related category. I think a lot of us are concerned that so many trees get removed during large developments. And then they're replaced with new trees that take a long time to mature. And that might also kind of touch on what's happening with the administrative guidelines and what sort of updates you foresee there. And is there an opportunity for the public to make comments on sort of the draft updates when that comes out?
Yeah, really good concerns and questions. As a tree lover, I am heartbroken personally by the number of trees that are removed for development, and there is a lot of development around Menlo Park. These old properties with mature trees are being completely wiped clean, and they are constructing new 2-story houses with basements and pools and ADUs and outdoor kitchens. And unfortunately, that doesn't leave a whole lot of opportunity for tree preservation. And admittedly, the way our heritage tree ordinance and our administrative guidelines are currently written, I don't have a whole lot of authority, or I don't have enough language and regulation written into the city code to really stop a lot of that development-based removal. Some of what we are doing in the administrative guidelines will address these concerns. So as a part of a development-based removal, an applicant must establish financial infeasibility of implementing an alternative construction design that enables the preservation of the tree. So right now, those thresholds are based on construction cost percentages from 2020. And as we all know, costs have skyrocketed since there, especially costs of constructing. So we're going to bump those percentages up a little bit for more consistency with the current market. But we're limited in what we can change to incentivize preservation, honestly. Based on guidance we've received from our city attorney's office. When we do bring on a new tree supervisor, and when I am able to sit down and revisit our heritage tree ordinance, our street tree ordinance, our development guidelines, I am going to restart those conversations with the city attorney's office and see what legally we can do, what changes we can make to preserve more trees. But right now, things are a little challenging in that respect. And I think the members of the EQC have seen a little bit of that with the appeals that have gone to you guys.
Yeah, thank you for that. So when the updated guidelines are drafted, is there an opportunity for public comment? Will that be something that goes to city council?
Joanna, remind me if I'm not remembering this correctly, but
We can follow up with you on
okay.
that question. I think we would need to check with our city attorneys on whether or not the public can comment on the draft admin guidelines. I do not believe it would go to council, but we'll bring that up to the city attorney's office.
Okay, thank you. And then, do you have an idea of the timeline for the planting of the 70 trees? The early action, like, is that something that'll be complete this year, or is it a longer horizon?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this summer, we're hoping to begin outreach in Bellhaven, of course, with Canopy's help. And our planting season typically starts when the rainy season starts, when we have cooler, wetter weather. That's usually more conducive for a successful tree establishment. So maybe as early as like late October, November, we'll start planting. And I'm thinking maybe we can plant at least half of the trees this winter and then finish up in January, February next year.
Great, thank you. One other thing that was brought up in public comment was sort of transparency around the maintenance schedule. Is that something that the public can view?
Yeah, I love that idea. I will get with our team. Joanna is a GIS whiz, by the way. I'm sure she could, well, not to put you on the spot, Joanna, but maybe there's the potential we can make a dashboard that shows when our different districts are up for our routine 5-year maintenance cycle, and we could put it up on the website, make it available to the public, and anybody who's interested can see that in 2028 their neighborhood will receive that routine maintenance pruning. And then maybe if they decide, I'd like the tree looked at earlier, they can just submit that request to us and we'll go out and check the tree out and perform that maintenance a lot sooner.
And then last question for me,
Just to
oh,
jump in, if I'm able to share my screen, I could walk you through what we currently have. Okay, do you see the city's website by any
Yes.
chance? Okay, perfect. Okay, so if you go to menlopark.gov/trees, it'll take you to this website. This is the main page for our trees. And you'll see a bunch of tiles. There's one that's labeled street tree maintenance or planting. So you click on that. And then in the first section, you'll see this public tree grid zone map. There's a hyperlink that is embedded in it. So you click on that. And it will bring you to a map. Okay, let me zoom out a little bit. And this will tell you when your street will be trimmed in that rotating 5-year cycle. So up here in the search bar, you can just type in, let's just say, 100 Terminal Ave in Menlo Park. Oh, okay. There you go. Okay, so it brings you to that location. You click on it. Okay, so it's last trimmed in 21. So the next grid pruning would be this year, 26.
great, that's great to know about that resource. Thank you.
Mhm.
And then my last question was around the urban forest management plan. Can you just sort of briefly describe for us what that is? And then there was a comment about kind of what's next and using the environmental justice element as a potential funding source.
Yeah, great question. So the urban forest management plan will be a long-term roadmap for the city of Menlo Park to guide its maintenance and expansion of its urban forest. So my idea is after we've finished with the early action tree planting plan, going through the RFP process, of course, identifying a contractor, and then getting an extensive urban canopy analysis performed. So having a drone maybe, or using existing aerial imagery to quantify the amount of canopy coverage around Menlo Park, and then using that information to set areas for priority, planting and maintenance. And then it'll also include a review of our existing procedures for tree planting, for tree maintenance, tree removal, the species that we plant, our existing species composition here at the city, our existing street tree management plan, street tree ordinance, heritage tree ordinance. Our contractor will review all of those resources and then provide recommendations for instance, what species should the city plant with climate resilience and species diversity like in mind moving forward. So one part of the urban forest management plan will be a list of those species that would be appropriate for Menlo Park with those considerations. Other aspects would include like areas where we need to focus the outreach and education and more planting. Other parts of the plan would identify, for instance, like where we have groupings of large over mature trees and provide a plan for us to slowly remove and replace those trees over time, you know, while limiting impact to the neighborhood, while focusing on like disease and insect pests resilience, climate resilience, expanding species diversity, and getting the community involved in that process as well. In terms of funding coming from the environmental justice element, I think there is a lot of overlap with the goals that the urban forest management plan would hope to accomplish and what the environmental justice element also hopes to achieve. Although I can't speak to the funding there. I don't know if Rachel or Joanna, if you're able to. I know that the environmental justice element is already helping to fund our early action tree planting plan, right?
Correct. Yeah, so 250,000 from that fund is going towards the tree planting and urban forest management plan. Then if additional funds are needed, it'll be programmed into the capital improvement projects budget. And that was identified last year at the city council priority setting.
Thank you. Commissioner McKenna for your insightful question. It appears that EQC discussion has come to a close on this.
I just have one sort of follow-up. Is there an opportunity for the EQC to support the arborist in making these administrative changes? It sounds like in the past that has been a role that the EQC has taken, and is there any support we can provide to further the mutual goals of saving more trees?
Yeah, another great question. And I think that we've worked a little bit in the past in getting the input from the EQC to provide those updates. I welcome the opportunity to work with you all. We are just unfortunately constrained in what we are allowed to do with the updates legally. I really wish it wasn't so, but we're gonna have a couple of city staff, including our city attorney's office, review. And I can work with you guys to take a look and see what you guys think. And if you have changes, we can at least try to get them incorporated. I can't guarantee that they'll be okay with everything, but we could try.
Do you think it's something that we could try adding to the agenda, the EQC
For the work
for
plan?
future month, which would be an update? We could work on that over the coming months to figure out how that could go.
Yeah, it sounds like from Julian's perspective that there would be the ability to bring back to the EQC for discussion and maybe feedback to staff, but maybe not an action. And so we can discuss it when to program that based on Julian's timing and
And we could certainly send along again the documents that the subcommittee prepared in case, because I know that momentum can stall, and I'm just so sorry to see that you were injured and you lost somebody on your team, and so momentum can stall. And so if we send that along, if that's helpful, great.
yeah, definitely. I can definitely get that back at the top of Julian and Joanna's inbox from the last time the EQC discussed.
We had a little report.
Yeah.
And, if you send it to Jillian, maybe you send it out to the EQC as well. To refresh everybody's inbox.
We can include it in the minutes for today's meeting. Specifically the report out from
Subcommittee.
subcommittee.
Yep. Does that conclude our discussion, or are there further thoughts and questions?
Well, the only question that I have was about, like, it seems like every year we plant less trees than the one that we take down. So I don't know, is there like a goal to put even more that we take out? Yeah.
Yeah, another great question. So we actually have in our tree nursery right now about 20 trees that we still plan on planting. We've stopped because of how hot and dry it is. Next week, however, we are expecting temperatures to come down in the early part of next week into the 70s. So we're going to spend a couple of hours every morning while it's still cool and plant like maybe 6 or 8 trees while it's still cold. So we're hoping to bring up the number of trees planted during this fiscal year by another 20 or so. So our goal is always to plant replacements for every street tree that we have to remove. And we do our best to work with the residents to select a species that they are happy with. I find that a tree is most successful when a resident is in love with the tree and they're committed to watering it and to reporting any issues with it. And I would say that maybe in like 80% cases, we're able to get the residents' input and we plant a tree and they help us take care of it. Sometimes residents refuse to have a tree replaced, especially if it's on their front yard, especially if they unfortunately had a bad experience with the previous tree. We do have some tree species that you might be familiar with that have aggressive roots, that have interfered with sewer lines, that have damaged sidewalks, that have cracked driveways. So it's a little harder to work with those residents to plant a replacement tree. I never want to force a tree on somebody, especially if it's on their front yard. So sometimes we're not always able to replant those sites. There are also cases where there just isn't enough space for planting a new tree. Like if the existing spot where a tree was crowded by adjacent trees or too close to a driveway, sometimes it just doesn't make sense to plant a new one if the new tree doesn't have the space and the opportunity to grow and be successful there. You know, a very important part of this is also picking the right tree for the right place.
Actually, I do have a quick question, just to pivot from the street tree, public tree. We almost planted as many as we removed, but not quite. I'm looking at the heritage tree removal permits. I saw there are 236 that are basically down to the tree was dead, the tree was dying, the tree was on an electric wire, and then 66 that were for development. So that seems like a pretty good ratio of permits that were applied for and granted. But you mentioned violations that you've seen in the heritage trees. So, and we're talking trees that are on private land. Would you guess that there were a lot more violations than what we're seeing, like with those 66 that were removed for development?
Another great question. So sometimes when I review a permit application for a new development, as a part of my review, I will look at historical Google Earth aerial imagery and street view imagery. And sometimes I'm not saying like this happens that often, but sometimes comparing that imagery to the survey that is in that plan set, I've seen that trees sometimes disappear. Sometimes trees big enough to be considered heritage trees. And that's a tricky situation because oftentimes for those new development projects, the property has changed hands, and maybe they will say it's the previous property owner or the property development company who did it, and you know, I'm working with a new property owner and they don't know anything about any tree that used to be in the backyard there. You know, I do my best when I do notice those discrepancies to bring that up to the applicant's attention, ask them what happened, and try to encourage them to, at the very least, submit a retroactive heritage tree permit. And then as a part of that permit, incorporate a replacement tree or additional replacement trees in their landscape plans if they have space. Yeah, I'm thinking that sometimes those heritage tree violations don't always get reported. We really rely on neighbors who care, watching out for the trees in their neighborhood, and then like giving us a call if they notice something amiss, but it doesn't always happen.
No, thank you, Jillian. That, as I suspected, yeah, there's a lot more trees going missing. So that one more, all right.
Around the water stipend comment that was made, it seems like, yeah, an unfair hardship for the community member to have to water the tree with the high water bills that we have, which, yes, are justified in the reason of conservation. But yeah, we're trying to have trees in our canopy and in our urban canopy, and to plant these trees, and the residents are responsible then for maintaining them. So is there any precedent for that or possibility for that to support the community members that are watering these trees that may need that support?
You want to take this, Joanna?
We appreciate that feedback. We have heard that a few times. So that is part of our discussion when we are developing the early action tree planting. That's as far as I can say because nothing has been, you know, for sure. But it is in discussion.
Yeah, and I also want to add that as a part of our routine maintenance for our city trees, we also water a lot of our recently planted trees, especially if the resident is unable to water, if the costs are too high. So if there are some residents who are struggling with providing that watering, they can reach out to us. I can stop by, take a quick look, and I can make the determination that, yeah, this tree maybe needs to be watered for another year. And we could add it to our watering list. So our tree crew goes around in a big old water truck and they get water from the fire hydrant. It's a great use of reclaimed water. And they'll water the trees in once a week, about 15 gallons, and usually trees established within the first year or two.
Commissioner Kissel is online, so I don't know if he.
Commissioner Kissel, do you have any questions?
I do not.
I have a question, it's for Jillian. Just out of curiosity, you said you had 20 trees in the nursery. I was wondering which species do you have in the nursery currently?
Yeah, great question. So we have one blue Atlas cedar. We have a couple of autumn gold ginkgo trees. We have a couple of red maples. I know we have some dwarf zelkovas, the city sprite variety. I could look up the list and send it to you if you're interested. Oh, we also
That would
have
be
a couple of flowering cherries. Yeah, I'd have to look at the list to. I can send it to you though if you want.
Thank you. That would be great.
Yeah, no problem.
I had a quick follow-up to that. Of those trees, how many are targeted to be planted in Bellhaven? Because we saw the number was quite different between other districts. So hopefully most of those are targeted towards Bellhaven? Those 20 trees that are waiting to be planted?
Yeah, I was hoping you wouldn't ask that. No, unfortunately, I know Bellhaven is where we need to plant the trees most, but those trees are not planned to be planted around Bellhaven, honestly. This is part of the reason why our partnership with Canopy and our upcoming early action tree planting plan is so important. To really connect with the residents there and let them know that there are opportunities to work with the city to plant trees, that the city is there to support them in maintaining those trees. We just don't get requests hardly from Bellhaven for new tree planting. And when we do have to remove, we get a lot of pushback about replacement because unfortunately a lot of residents maybe have had bad experiences with the trees, or maybe there has not been enough effort by the city to establish like a good relationship with them to build that trust. That's definitely something we need to work on.
So have I understood correctly? You're saying that the 20 trees are going because somebody put in a request for a street tree to be planted in front of their house. And those requests came from other parts of the city. Is that what you're saying?
So the 20 that we currently have in our nursery are not requests from residents. These are going to be replacements for trees that were removed. And in some cases, we're planting more trees than were removed. Hence why that number is a bit higher. But for the most part, these are all replacements for trees that were removed on the west side of Menlo Park. But yeah, you got me. We do need more trees there. We got to work on that.
But it's harder to find a new spot, to put a new tree than it is to replace a tree that's been pulled out. And that's the challenge, maybe?
Yeah, that's part of the challenge there.
Is that our discussion? Does that wrap us up? I know we're hitting up on 8 o'clock. How do we bring this in quickly, Rachel, now that we've discussed?
I can do a super quick update. Okay. So if we want to go to item D3, discussing the Bellhaven Child Development Center electrification project and grant funding. I'd be excited to share about that. So I'm glad we're gonna just pull off the slides on this list.
Or you were talking about postponing that to next
We
month?
could postpone it, but I could do it really
Oh.
quickly as well.
Right.
It's a simple action. So we have been working over the last year to put together an electrification project for the Belhaven Child Development Center. Move to the next slide. You're all probably pretty familiar with this facility on Ivy Drive. It was built in the 90s. And there's a lot of outdated equipment that's both natural gas running and electric. And so I wanted to share this evening some really exciting work that's been underway for months, and then ask the commission to make a recommendation that we accept some grant funding to finalize our construction. So I think I can skip over what BHCDC is. It's our child care facility for preschoolers. It's open Monday through Friday, full service. We're serving meals there and having students there from early in the morning to 5:15 in the afternoon. And this project was identified as part of our climate action plan to electrify all of our municipal facilities, as well as a part of our environmental justice element to prioritize capital improvements in our underserved community of Belhaven, as well as adding solar and storage for resiliency. Next slide. And so work today, as I mentioned, we started in 2023, where we electrified at no cost to the city the water heaters in the facility. In 2025, we were accepted into the Bay Area Regional Energy Network's Decarbonization Showcase. BayREN is a part of ABAG, Association of Bay Area Governments, and the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. They serve the 9 Bay Area counties. And so this is a pilot project to help municipal partners electrify their facilities. So we are really proud to be one of the first projects selected for this showcase. And so as a part of that, they offered us some project management support and technical assistance to help us understand the equipment and the best ways to advance electrification. And they really helped us focus on air quality. We wanted to make sure this center was safe when there's wildfires, and we know there's increased pollutants in the neighborhood. And so that's where we really leveraged their technical assistance on coming up with an HVAC system design that would have advanced filtration and control. In 2026, we installed solar with Peninsula Clean Energy, soon to be Westlight Energy, and hope to participate in their battery storage program when they launch that in the next year or so. And so that solar is not yet providing electricity to the facility. It should be in the next couple of months as we work with PG&E to energize it. And so all of this kind of leads up to, we have solar on the roof now, we have some electric equipment, we have this great report from BayREN, we have this understanding of the pollution and air quality needs. And so we put together a design with KPA Group, which was finalized in June 2026. And we have our permits issued from the building department. And so how the city does things is we work with a design consultant and then we put out to bid for the construction. And so we are right now putting this project out to bid for construction. The bid is live right now, so any interested firms are welcome to look at it. And we're advertising that through, I think, the end of this month, and then we'll be having a tentative award at our July 14th City Council meeting. And so what this project includes is the replacing of the HVAC system for 4 classrooms and the admin area. It also includes updates to the thermos and HVAC control systems with the ability to remotely operate the equipment, installation of new ductwork and insulation around that ductwork. We also included exterior lighting to LED, since many of the lights we discovered were non-operational when we were doing these energy audits. And we'll have advanced controls too for energy efficiency inside the building. We're replacing gas stoves with electric, which feels particularly meaningful for a child care center. And the highest end kind of estimate for all of this work we have at around $900,000. Next slide. And so we are really excited that we've been able to fund this with grant funding. Because it is such a meaningful and exciting project, and our partners at the state and across the region see that. So we're hoping to use 100,000 from Bayren, which I mentioned as a part of the Decarb Showcase program. We've also already been awarded 21,000 from Peninsula Clean Energy, soon to be Westlight. And then we can use our California Energy Commission community-wide electrification grant per city council guidance for the rest of the project costs. And so tonight, I'm happy to kind of capture any questions, and I can probably answer them offline since we're running out of time here. But really wanted to get the EQC's kind of feeling on accepting the 100K from Bayren before that goes to city council, so we can have the EQC stamp of approval on July 14th. That you've seen this project, you're excited about this project, and you think the grant funding is meaningful. So sorry for the super fast presentation, but I'll leave it there for clarifying questions, and then we can go into public comment.
Any clarifying questions?
It's great.
Very clear.
Okay, and then any public comment on item D3? I have one public comment, so we'll start with Jocelyn, and then you can raise your hand if you're online, or return a card to me if you're interested to move to public comment on D3. When you're ready.
Okay. Jocelyn and I have done with Menlo Spark. I wanted to thank staff on their hard work on the design of the project. It's exciting that it's finally out for a bid. I think when I started about a year ago, we were still talking about design for the childcare center. So it's really exciting that we did. Also, especially because it's an essential part of spending down the $4.5 million by the deadline that we have from the state. And that Menlo Spark worked really hard to help secure. I think a quick suggestion and then a question. I know construction has not yet started, so I'd love to know how long construction will take if we have an idea of that. And a suggestion is to also include some sort of marketing material or large fact sheet at the front of the building, explaining the health benefits of electrifying the building, explaining how much safer it is for children in the building and staff, and serving as a sort of light education touch point on climate emissions reduced, as well as health impacts of having electrification of an electrifying building, as well as community resilience benefits as well. I think it's not always immediately obvious the benefits of electrification because NOx and methane are invisible, and so showing that to parents, especially new parents as kids age into the program, so you get a lot of new eyes on it, would be, I think, helpful. Other cities have this on their electrified buildings, especially San Jose. They have large fact sheets in front of their electrified library that kind of run down all the benefits of the living gas of the building. And so they have those good examples, and I'm looking forward those to staff. Yeah, just wanted to thank staff, and if there are opportunities later to also engage parents on education around electrification, what that means for the space, Menlo Spark would be more than happy to conduct those quick presentations or engage with parents and parent meetings that happen at the center. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. That's important. I can speak to the construction timeline if that's helpful.
I think that's general information that's useful to everybody.
Yeah, so I think we're looking at 45 days and hoping to have it finished in fall, winter of this year. And we have scheduled it so we're like careful and cognizant of the child care facility. So we do think it'll take on like the longer end. We have in the RFP like be quiet during nap time and that sort of thing. So there might be some weekend work, and letters will be going out to the neighbors.
Rachel. So you mentioned that we might need to have a motion in order to give our approval. Would you state the motion?
Sure. So I'm looking for a motion to advance the to advance the funding agreement with the Bayren for the decarbonization showcase program to advance electrification of the Belhaven Child Development Center.
Do we have sorry,
have a question.
Please,
I'll make it
your
quick.
question.
First of all, I just want to say I'm really excited about this project. I love that this money is going to Bellhaven community as it was intended from the state, and to the public comment from Jocelyn, just the incredible health benefits that this brings both to the community with better air quality inside and outside the building, to the little kids that are in there. Just think it's great. My only question is, are there any constraints with the grant that we should be aware of?
Yeah, so one of the pieces of this grant funding is that we do have to like showcase our building. So we might give some tours of it. They'll help us create the educational materials to put outside the building. And so that's kind of like, we're on the hook, I think, to, you know, lend some of our staff time to talk about how great the project is and how other cities can do it.
Which is perfect, right?
Yeah. We're excited about that.
I'll make the motion unless there's other comments.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner McKenna and a second from Commissioner Angel to advance the funding agreement with the Bay Area Regional Energy Network for the decarbonization program to advance electrification of the BHCDC. And then we will do our roll call. Chair Hill.
Yes.
Vice Chair Hernandez.
Yes.
Commissioner Angel.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodwin.
Yes.
Commissioner Kissel.
Yes.
And Commissioner McKenna.
Yes.
And then we have a few last pieces, Chair, before we can adjourn.
Okay, let me, well, then we should get to those last pieces. We have reports and announcements. We can now hear reports and announcements from staff and commissioners. Or not hear them.
I have one. Staff brief. I just want to uplift an event on Saturday. It's the Make Polluters Pay Town Hall event. And it will be at the San Mateo County Union High School District Office at 650 North Delaware Street from 1:30 to 3 p.m. Make Polluters Pay, if you don't know, is a potential bill at the state legislature to make the largest polluters pay for the damage they are causing in the past. And so we're trying to get that bill resurrected at the state level. And this town hall is a way to make people aware of the bill and the benefits. I just want to also highlight that Violet Sayana will be one of our panelists. She is the executive director of Climate Resilient Communities, who's very active in the Bellhaven community. So please share that with others and attend if you can.
Thank you, Commissioner McKenna. Any other reports or announcements?
I'll just share that the city's Juneteenth event is this Friday, 6 to 8 here at the Bellhaven Community Campus, and Jocelyn and I will be tabling if anyone wants to dig into these topics deeper with us.
Thank you. So now we have item F, informational items. Informational items are transmitted to the EQC in staff's efforts to provide updates. Informational items are not action items. However, City Council, staff, or members of the public may ask questions or make comments. Are there questions or comments from the EQC on the informational item F1, the 2025 to 2026 Environmental Quality Commission Work Plan? Okay, Ms. Launder, do we have any public comment on this item?
Opening that public comment for item F1, our EQC work plan. Don't see any cards in the room. And I don't see any hands online for item F1. So we can close public comment on F1 and return media to Chair.
All right, the next item is adjournment. And there's actually something underneath it.
Oh, that's just my note.
Okay, so we're adjourned.